If we could shrink the Earth's population down to a single village consisting of 100 people with all the existing ratios the same, it would look something like this. There would be 57 Asians, 8 Europeans, 21 Africans, and 14 people from the Western Hemisphere. There would be 52 women and 48 men. There would be 70 non-whites and 30 whites. There would be 70 non-Christians and 30 Christians. There would be no doctor, no nurse, no dentist, no hospital or clinic, and no school. There would be no safe drinking water. There would be no common language. There would be no electricity and no paved roads. There would be 70 people unable to read or write. There would be 50 people suffering from malnutrition. The entire food supply for the village would depend entirely on outside sources. 6 people in that village would possess 59% of the entire world's wealth, and all 6 would be U.S. citizens. There would be 1 college graduate, 1 TV, 1 computer, and the average person in that village would be a 13-year-old Chinese girl.
"250 babies will be born. 113 of them will be born into poverty. 15 will have birth defects. 107 people will die. 4,500 McDonald's burgers will be eaten. 18 of the 107 deaths will be from starvation. 2,040 trees will be cut down in the rainforest. 55,000 barrels of oil will be used. Nike will make $36,000. Bill Gates will make $15,000. Meanwhile, a Nike factory worker in Vietnam will make 1/10 of a penny. The average citizen of Earth will be 1 penny richer.
You can't explain inequality in the world by looking at poor people. If you had that attitude, you kind of think to yourself, well, there's something that poor people could do that would make themselves less poor. That's just not true. The reason poor people are poor is because there's another group of people, rich people, and powerful people who generally have a lot of control over social policy.
So, all the billionaires got bailed out, and all the poor people we left with only a tear in our eye.
Our mode of development has not fulfilled its promises. In 50 years, the gap between rich and poor has grown wider than ever. Today, half the world's wealth is in the hands of the richest 2% of the population. Half the world's poor live in resource-rich countries. Can such disparities be maintained?
We are one shock away from a full-blown crisis, where we risk losing a generation.
A food crisis with deadly consequences is spreading across the globe.
A new era of hunger.
This is the biggest threat today to the world's poor.
Food prices doubling or tripling is really unprecedented.
While many are worrying about filling their gas tanks, many others around the world are struggling to fill their stomach.
It's a tipping point over which they have no control.
The world population is going up by 6 million a month.
In 40 years, there'll be roughly 9 billion mouths to feed.
Demand for food, demand for water, demand for energy.
Climate change.
Severe weather events.
Rising temperatures and extreme weather like droughts and floods.
Rising energy and production costs.
Record oil prices.
Over 30 countries have been hit with riots.
And the United Nations has warned of the threat of worldwide unrest.
Every 7 seconds, we lose a child to hunger.
Millions of children will be growth stunted.
The damage is irreversible.
Let's start with this graph. A perfectly even distribution of wealth among all living people, with everyone divided into 5 equal groups. Now, let's show how much each group actually has. 80% of the world's people barely have any wealth. It's hard to even see them on the chart. Meanwhile, the richest 2%, they have more wealth than half of the rest of the world. Let's take the whole world's population, all 7 billion of us, and reduce it to just a representative 100 individuals. Poorest people on the left, richest people on the right. Now let's show how the world's total wealth, roughly $223 trillion, is distributed. The vast majority have practically nothing. Nothing with which to educate their children, nothing with which to pay for basic medicines. While the richest 1%, they've accumulated 43% of our world's wealth. The bottom 80%, meanwhile, that's 8 out of every 10 people, have just 6% between them. But even this doesn't really show how extreme things have become. The richest 300 people on Earth have the same wealth as the poorest 3 billion. So the number of people it takes to fill a mid-sized commercial aircraft have more wealth than the populations of India, China, the US, and Brazil combined.
2 words. At the end of this video, I'm going to ask you to share 2 words to help change the world.
We've got to build a movement step by step, intentionally and deliberately, to create the world that we want. And that means it needs to be social, it needs to be political, it needs to be economic, and ultimately we need a legal system that codifies under law a peaceful, just, democratic, and sustainable world.
This is our world.
In all its injustice.
In all its pain.
In all its joy. This is our destiny.
We don't know the answers.
We're not guilty. We are not afraid.
We are not powerless. We are powerful.
We believe.
We're hungry.
So we need 2 words from you. I care.
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 And I care.
Just 2 words. I care. 2 words to help change the world. Just 2 words.